I heard my wife said I was worse than her cheating ex and choose toxic friends, so I played the recording and watched her world collapse publicly. Night. And let me tell you exactly how that conversation went down. I walked through the front door around 6:30, same as always. The house felt different though. You know that feeling when the air itself seems charged? She was sitting on the couch, phone face down beside her, staring at the TV but not really watching. Her jaw was set in that particular way that meant trouble. "Hey," I said, dropping my keys on the counter. "How was your day?" She didn't look at me. "Fine, right? That kind of fine." I grabbed a Coke from the fridge and sat in my usual chair. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band, ready to snap. "So," she finally said, her voice tight. "I talked to the girls today." Of course she did. Those weekly coffee sessions with her little circle had become like a toxic waste dump for our marriage. Every Tuesday, same Starbucks, same complaints, same terrible advice. "And how are they?" I asked, taking a sip of my drink. "They're concerned about me." I almost laughed. Concerned? Right. More like hungry for drama to spice up their own boring lives. Concerned about what exactly? She turned to face me then, and I could see it in her eyes. That looked like she'd been building up to this moment all day. About us, about how you treat me. I set my Coke down carefully. "How I treat you." "Yes." Then she stood up, pacing now. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Such is the fact that you never help around here. Such is how you always put yourself first. Such is how you never really listened to me." I watched her pace and waited. There was more coming. "They said I deserve better." She stopped, facing me. "They said I was happier with my ex, that at least he cared about making me feel special." There it was, the real reason for this conversation. Her ex, the mythical perfect boyfriend who apparently walked on water and never had a bad day in his life. "And what do you think?" I asked, my voice level. "I think they're right." The words hung in the air like smoke. I nodded slowly, processing what she just said. "They're right. Yes, about your ex being better than me, about everything. You're worse than him in every way that matters." I stood up, then walked to the kitchen and poured the rest of my Coke down the sink, rinsed the can and put it in the recycling. She watched me the whole time, probably expecting me to explode or beg or defend myself. Instead, I turned around and smiled. "You know what? You're absolutely right." Her face changed. That wasn't the reaction she'd expected. "I am worse," I continued, leaning against the counter. "Much worse. But here's the thing. You haven't seen how much worse I can actually be." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you want worse? You got it. You want to see what worse really looks like? Consider this your front row seat." I walked past her toward the stairs, then paused. "Oh, and tell your girls thanks for the advice. They're about to see exactly what kind of man they helped create." I left her standing there, mouth slightly open, probably wondering what the hell just happened. As I climbed the stairs, I was already planning my next move. She wanted worse than her perfect ex? Fine. She was about to learn the difference between worse and worst. The next morning, I woke up at my usual time and got ready for work like nothing happened. She was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs making coffee and toast. The tension from last night still hung in the air. "Good morning," she said carefully, testing the waters. "Morning," I replied, pouring myself coffee. She waited for me to say something else. Apologize, maybe? Ask if we could talk. Instead, I finished my coffee, grabbed my lunch from the fridge and headed for the door. "That's it?" she called after me. I turned back with a pleasant smile. "What do you mean? You're just leaving?" "I'm going to work. You know, being worse." "Isn't that what you wanted?" Her face flushed. "I didn't mean—" "Oh, but you did. You were very clear last night. I'm worse than your ex, so I figured I should start acting like it." I left her standing there and drove to work with the radio turned up loud. At lunch, instead of texting her like I usually did, I did some research on my phone. Social media is a beautiful thing when you know what to look for. Her ex, the famous, perfect boyfriend. It took me about 20 minutes to find everything I needed. Turns out Prince Charming had quite the history. Multiple relationships that ended badly, a DUI from 2 years ago, and some very interesting photos from last weekend showing him at a bar with his arm around a woman who definitely wasn't his current girlfriend. Perfect. When I got home that evening, she was waiting for me with dinner ready, trying to smooth things over, probably. "I made your favorite," she said as I walked in. I looked at the table, Chicken parmesan, garlic bread, Caesar salad. She'd clearly put effort into it. Thanks, I said, sitting down. We ate in silence for a few minutes before she spoke up. Look, about last night. What about it? Maybe I was a little harsh. I chewed my food thoughtfully. A little harsh? You told me I'm worse than your ex in every way that matters. That sounds pretty definitive to me. I was upset. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? She set her fork down. I wasn't lying, but I could have said it better. So I am worse than him. In some ways, yes. I nodded. Good. I'm glad we're clear on that. After dinner, I went upstairs to shower. Usually I'd load the dishwasher first, not tonight. When I came back down, she was standing in the kitchen looking at the mess. Are you going to help with these? She asked, gesturing at the dirty dishes. Why would I? You said I never help around here anyway. I'm just living up to your expectations. That's not what I meant. Really? Because yesterday you told me I never help. Today you're asking me to help. Which is it? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat down to watch TV. An hour later, she joined me on the couch, sitting close like she used to. We need to talk about this, she said. About what? About us, about what's happening. I muted the TV and looked at her. You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk about your perfect ex. Her face went pale. What about him? Well, since he's apparently the gold standard I'm being measured against, I'm curious. Tell me what made him so special. I don't want to talk about him. But I do. You brought him up. You compared me to him, so let's discuss it. What did he do that I don't? She shifted uncomfortably. He was more attentive. Attentive? How? He remembered things. Important dates. He surprised me with flowers. Ah, flowers. And when exactly did he send you flowers? What? Simple question. When did he send you flowers? Was it before or after he got arrested for drunk driving? The color drained from her face completely. How did you? Or maybe it was around the same time he was cheating on his current girlfriend. You know, the one he's been with for 8 months. She stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Surprised? Your girls didn't mention that part, did they? Funny how they left out the little detail about him being photographed with another woman last weekend. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. Her perfect ex, drunk and handsy with a brunette at some dive bar downtown. The timestamp showed last Saturday night. Still think I'm worse than him? She looked at the photos, then back at me. How did you find these? Same way your friends found all their ammunition against me. Social media. Amazing what people post when they think nobody's watching. I stood up and headed for the stairs. Where are you going? To bed. I have work tomorrow. Unlike some people, I actually show up to my responsibilities. We're not done talking. I paused on the bottom step. Actually, we are. You made your position very clear last night. I'm worse than your ex. Well, congratulations. You're about to find out exactly what worse looks like. I went upstairs and closed the bedroom door behind me, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the photos of her perfect ex. Tomorrow, things would get even more interesting. The rest of the week was like watching a slow-motion car crash. She kept trying to backtrack, testing different approaches to see if she could undo what she'd started. Wednesday morning, she made my favorite breakfast. I ate it, said thanks, and left for work without another word. Thursday, she tried the emotional route. I miss us, she said while I was getting ready for work. I miss how we used to be. Do you? Because according to you, I've always been worse than your ex. So what exactly are you missing? She didn't have an answer for that. Friday evening, she attempted a full-scale charm offensive, ordered takeout from that Thai place I like, put on the dress I bought her for her birthday, even lit some candles. What's the occasion? I asked, sitting down at the table. No occasion. Just thought we could have a nice evening together. How thoughtful. Is this before or after you tell your friends how terrible I am? Her smile faltered. I haven't talked to them since Tuesday. Really? Because your phone sure has been buzzing a lot. She looked down at her plate. They've been texting and I haven't responded. Why not? I thought they were such great advisors. She set her fork down. Can we please just have dinner without fighting? Who's fighting? I'm just being worse, like you wanted. Saturday morning brought a new strategy, the guilt trip. You know, I've been thinking, she said, sitting across from me while I read the news on my tablet. Maybe we should see a counselor. I looked up. A counselor? To work through our issues? What issues? You told me exactly what the problem is. I'm worse than your ex. Seems pretty straightforward to me. That's not, maybe we could both try harder. Try harder at what? You want me to be more like him? No, that's not what I said. Actually, it is exactly what you said. Your friends convinced you that he was better and you agreed. So, why would you want to fix something with someone who's worse? She opened her mouth, then closed it. This was becoming a pattern. Sunday afternoon, while she was at her sister's house, I got to work. See, during my research into Prince Charming, I discovered something even more interesting than his recent infidelity. Turns out he had a habit of borrowing money from girlfriends and never paying it back. 3 different women, 3 different amounts. One of them was still trying to get her $1,500 back. I also found some old posts from when they were dating. Interesting how differently she described their relationship back then compared to the fairy tale her friends were selling now. Lots of complaints about him being unreliable, showing up late, canceling plans last minute. Memory is a funny thing. When she got home, I was watching football with a beer. "How was your sister's?" I asked without looking away from the TV. "Fine," she said. "Hi." That's nice. She sat down next to me, closer than she had all week. She asked how we're doing, and what did you tell her? That we're working through some things. Are we? She turned to face me. Aren't we? I muted the TV and looked at her. You tell me. Are we working through the fact that I'm worse than your ex, or are we working through the fact that you believed your friends over your husband? It's not that simple. Actually, it is. You had a choice Tuesday night. Defend your marriage or trash it based on gossip from women who meet at Starbucks to complain about their own lives. You chose. I was frustrated. So, you decided to compare me to another man in my own house. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. For what exactly? For saying it, or for meaning it? She didn't answer. Monday morning, I changed my routine. Instead of going straight to work, I stopped by my buddy's gym. He'd been asking me to check it out for months. Good timing, really. I signed up for a membership and worked out for an hour before heading to the office. That evening, I came home later than usual. Where were you? She asked as I walked in. Gym. Since when do you go to the gym? Since I decided to make some improvements. Try to be less worse. She looked confused. What kind of improvements? The kind that matter, apparently. Don't worry about it. Tuesday arrived like a storm cloud. I knew she had her weekly coffee date with the girls that morning. I also knew they'd be asking questions about the photos I'd shown her, questions she couldn't answer without admitting she'd been wrong. I was curious to see how that would play out. When I got home Tuesday evening, she was sitting in the same spot on the couch where this whole thing started exactly 1 week earlier. But this time, she looked defeated. How was coffee with the girls? I asked, hanging up my jacket. I didn't go. Why not? She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Because I couldn't face them. Couldn't face them or couldn't face the truth. Both. I sat down across from her. And what truth is that? That they were wrong. That I was wrong. About what specifically? She took a shaky breath. About him, about you, about everything. I leaned back in my chair. You know what the funny thing is? A week ago. If you just talked to me about whatever was bothering you, we could have worked it out. But instead you chose to humiliate me based on lies from people who don't even know me. I know. I was stupid. Yes, you were. But here's what really gets me. You're only realizing this now because I proved those lies wrong. If I hadn't shown you those photos, you'd still think your ex was perfect and I was the problem. She started crying then, real tears, not the manipulative kind. What can I do? She whispered. I stood up and looked down at her. You wanted to see how much worse I could be. We're just getting started. Then I walked upstairs, leaving her alone with the consequences of her choices. Because the truth was, I wasn't even close to being done yet. Wednesday morning brought the perfect opportunity. She was in the shower when her phone buzzed with a group text from her coffee circle. I could see the preview on the lock screen. Girl, where were you yesterday? We need to talk about the rest was cut off, but I didn't need to see more. They were circling the wagons, probably wondering why their weekly victim hadn't shown up for her dose of toxic advice. That afternoon, I made a call to my brother-in-law. He works in marketing and knows everyone in town. Within an hour, I had the contact information I needed. Thursday evening, while she was at the grocery store, I sent a carefully crafted message to 3 different people. Her sister, her best friend from college who lived across town, and my own sister, who'd always been protective of our marriage. The message was simple. Hey, could you listen to something? I need an objective opinion on a conversation from last week. Then I attached the audio file. See, I have this habit of recording important conversations on my phone. Started doing it after some issues at work a few years back. Last Tuesday night, when she delivered her little speech about me being worse than her ex, my phone had been sitting right there on the kitchen counter, recording everything. Her voice came through crystal clear. They said I deserve better. They said I was happier with my ex. That at least he cared about making me feel special. I think they're right. You're worse than him in every way that matters. By Friday morning, all three had responded. Her sister was furious. Her college friend was shocked. My sister wanted to know what I planned to do about it. Friday afternoon, I got a text from her sister. Can you come over Sunday? We need to talk. All of us. Perfect. Saturday, she was nervous, jumpy. She kept checking her phone, getting increasingly agitated when certain people didn't respond to her messages. Everything okay? I asked over breakfast. My sister's been weird all week. Short answers, no calls, and I haven't heard from anyone since Tuesday. Huh, that's strange. I'm worried something's wrong. Maybe they're just busy. She looked at me suspiciously. You don't seem concerned. Should I be? You're the one with the close family relationships. Sunday came like Judgment Day. We drove to her sister's house in complete silence. She'd been trying to reach her all morning with no luck. When we walked through the front door, I knew immediately that my plan had worked. Her sister, her brother-in-law, her parents, and even her college friend were all sitting in the living room. The atmosphere was thick enough to cut with a knife. What's going on? She asked, looking around the room. Her sister stood up, phone in hand. We need to discuss something you said to your husband last week. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? Sit down, her father said quietly. Not a request. She sat on the edge of the couch like she was ready to run. I took the chair across from her, relaxed and comfortable. Her sister pressed play on her phone. Her own voice filled the room. They said I deserved better. They said I was happier with my ex. I watched her face as the recording played. Horror, embarrassment, the slow realization that everyone she cared about had heard her trash our marriage based on gossip from strangers. When it finished, the silence was deafening. Her mother spoke first. How could you say such things? Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, her father interrupted. You stood in your kitchen and told your husband he's worse than another man. Based on what? Coffee shop gossip. Her college friend leaned forward. Who are these women you've been talking to? Because they clearly don't know him at all. They're my friends, she said weakly. Are they? Her sister asked. Because real friends don't try to destroy your marriage. Her brother-in-law, who'd always liked me, shook his head. If someone talked to my wife that way, there'd be consequences. There were consequences, I said calmly. Everyone turned to look at me. She wanted to see how much worse I could be than her ex. So, I showed her. What do you mean? Her mother asked. I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos I'd found. Her perfect ex with another woman, the DUI record, the complaints from previous girlfriends about borrowed money. This is who she compared me to. This is the man her friends convinced her was better. Her father studied the photos, then looked at his daughter with disappointment. You believe strangers over your own husband? She was crying now, but nobody moved to comfort her. I was confused, she whispered. Confused about what? Her sister demanded. About whether your husband of 5 years was a good man? You needed a committee to figure that out. Her college friend stood up. I've known both of you since college. He's been nothing but good to you. How could you even think about comparing him to anyone? The girl said. The girls don't live your life, her mother snapped. The girls don't sleep next to him every night, or see how he treats you when nobody's watching. I stood up then. Actually, let me share what these girls really think. I pulled up screenshots from social media, posts from her coffee circle talking about how boring married life was, how they missed being single, how men were all the same anyway. These are your advisors, I said, showing the screenshots to the room. Women who resent their own choices and want company in their misery. Her father looked at the posts, then at his daughter. These are the people you trusted over your husband. She buried her face in her hands. Here's what's going to happen, her sister said, standing up. You're going to cut contact with these toxic women immediately, and you're going to apologize, her mother added properly, not some half-hearted, I'm sorry you're upset nonsense. Her college friend nodded. And you're going to figure out how to earn back his trust, because if I were him, I'd be done. Everyone looked at me then, waiting to see what I'd say. I looked down at my wife, still crying into her hands, and felt absolutely nothing. "The question isn't whether I'm done," I said quietly. "The question is whether she understands that some bells can't be unrung." Then I walked toward the door. "I'll be in the car when you're ready to leave." As I stepped outside, I heard her sister's voice. "You better fix this because men like him don't come around twice." I sat in the car and waited. She had a choice to make: fix what she'd broken or live with the consequences. Either way, I was done being the worst option. She stayed in that house for 2 hours. When she finally came to the car, her eyes were swollen from crying, and she looked like she'd aged 5 years in one afternoon. We drove home in complete silence. She kept opening her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closing it again. Smart choice. When we got home, she went straight upstairs. I heard the shower running for almost an hour. When she came back down, she was wearing one of my old t-shirts and looked like a lost child. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway of the living room. "Do we? Please." I muted the TV and looked at her. "Go ahead." "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" "For everything. For listening to them. For saying what I said. For comparing you to him. And?" She looked confused. "And what? That's it? That's your apology? I don't know what else you want me to say." I turned the TV back on. "Then we're done here." "Wait, please." She came into the room and sat on the edge of the coffee table facing me. "Tell me what you want me to say." "I don't want you to say anything. Words are cheap. You've already shown me what you really think. That's not fair." "Fair?" I looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you defending your husband when your friends attacked him. Fair would have been you telling them to mind their own business. Fair would have been you remembering who's been faithful to you for 5 years. I know. No, you don't know, because if you knew, you never would have said what you said." She started crying again. "What can I do to fix this?" "Nothing. There has to be something." I stood up and walked to the kitchen. She followed me like a puppy. "Please," she said. "I'll do anything." "Anything? Like what?" "I'll cut contact with them. I'll tell everyone what really happened. You'll do all that because you got caught, not because you realized you were wrong." "That's not true." "Isn't it? If I hadn't shown you those photos, would you have changed your mind about your ex?" She didn't answer. "If your family hadn't heard that recording, would you be apologizing right now?" Still nothing. That's what I thought. Monday morning, I woke up with perfect clarity about what needed to happen next. She was already awake, watching me like she was afraid I might disappear. "I'm taking some time off work," I announced while getting dressed. "Why? Personal reasons?" "What kind of personal reasons?" I looked at her in the mirror while adjusting my tie. "The kind that involve making sure everyone knows exactly what kind of wife you've been." Her face went white. "What does that mean?" "It means your little coffee circle isn't the only group that likes to share opinions about marriages." I left her sitting on the bed and drove to work. But instead of going to my office, I went to my buddy's place. He works from home and has a setup that would make NASA jealous. "I need to send some messages," I told him, "and I need them to look professional." By Tuesday afternoon, the email had been sent to 43 people, everyone we knew, both our families, our neighbors, our mutual friends, people from work, everyone from our wedding guest list who still lived in town. The subject line was simple: setting the record straight. The message was even simpler. I attached the audio recording from that Tuesday night along with screenshots of her friends' social media posts about how all men are trash and how marriage is a scam. I included the photos of her perfect ex with another woman and his arrest record. Then I wrote one paragraph. "Last week, my wife told me I was worse than her ex-boyfriend in every way that matters. This was based on advice from women who believe marriage is a waste of time and men are disposable. I thought you should hear what she really thinks about our marriage and decide for yourselves whether her assessment was accurate. The evidence speaks for itself." I signed it with my name and hit send. My phone started ringing within 20 minutes. Her phone started ringing 30 minutes after that. By Wednesday morning, the whole situation had taken on a life of its own. My work buddies were outraged on my behalf. Her cousins were calling to ask what the hell was wrong with her. Our neighbors were giving her dirty looks when she went to get the mail. She tried calling her sister for support and got lectured instead. She tried calling her college friend and was told she needed to grow up and act like a wife. The coffee circle tried to rally around her, but it was too late. Everyone had seen their social media posts. Everyone knew exactly what kind of friends they were. Thursday evening, she was pacing the living room like a caged animal when I got home from the gym. "You have to stop this," she said as soon as I walked in. "Stop what?" "You know what. The emails, the messages, telling everyone our business. I didn't tell anyone anything. I just shared what you said. Your words, not mine. People are calling me names. What kind of names? Ungrateful? Disloyal? Stupid? I shrugged. Maybe you should ask your coffee friends for advice on how to handle that. They won't talk to me anymore. Smart women. This isn't funny. You're right, it's not funny, it's pathetic. She stopped pacing and stared at me. How can you be so cruel? Cruel? I haven't done anything except show people who you really are. If you don't like what they see, maybe the problem isn't me. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice. And choices have consequences. I can't go anywhere without people staring at me. Welcome to my world from last Tuesday night. She sat down heavily on the couch. What do you want from me? I want you to understand what you did, really understand it. I do understand. No, you understand that you got caught. There's a difference. Friday brought the final blow. Her boss called her into the office. Apparently, several clients had received the email. Clients who knew both of us. Clients who were questioning whether they wanted to work with someone who had such little respect for her own marriage. She came home that afternoon looking broken. I might lose my job, she said, standing in the doorway. That's unfortunate. That's all you have to say. What would you like me to say? That actions don't have consequences? That you can trash your husband and expect everything to stay the same? I'm sorry. And I said words are cheap. She walked over and sat across from me. What will it take? For what? For you to forgive me? For this to stop? I looked at her for a long moment. Really looked at her. This woman who had promised to honor and cherish me, who had chosen to believe strangers over her own husband. You want to know what it will take? She nodded eagerly. It will take time travel. It will take you going back to last Tuesday night and making a different choice. It will take you never having said those words in the first place. But I can't do that. Exactly. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She understood finally that some things can't be undone. Some words can't be taken back. Some damage is permanent. So what happens now? She whispered. I stood up and looked down at her. Now you get to live with the consequences of showing everyone exactly what kind of wife you are. Just like I had to live with being compared to a criminal because your friends needed drama for their Tuesday morning entertainment. Are we over? That depends entirely on you. What do you mean? I mean, you have one chance to show me you understand the difference between being sorry you got caught and being sorry for what you did. She looked up at me with desperate hope. How? Figure it out. Because this is the last conversation we're having about it. You either fix what you broke or you don't. But I'm done explaining why your actions matter. I walked upstairs, leaving her alone with the ruins of what she'd created. Tomorrow would tell me everything I needed to know about whether my wife was worth saving. Saturday morning, I woke up to find her side of the bed empty. The smell of coffee and bacon drifted upstairs. When I came down, she was standing at the stove, fully dressed with 2 suitcases by the front door. Going somewhere? I asked, pouring myself coffee. I'm leaving for a few days. Going to stay with my mom. Running away? She turned to face me. No. Giving you space to decide if you want me to come back. I sat down at the kitchen table and watched her plate the breakfast she'd made. She set it in front of me without a word. This isn't what I expected, I said. What did you expect? More begging, more excuses, more attempts to manipulate the situation. She sat down across from me with her own plate but didn't eat. I thought about that, about what I could say or do to make you forgive me. Then I realized that's still me trying to control the outcome instead of accepting responsibility. I took a bite of bacon, and she finally understood what you've been trying to tell me. I didn't just hurt your feelings or make a mistake. I betrayed our marriage. I chose to believe women who don't even like marriage over the man I promised to trust and honor. She pushed her food around her plate. I keep thinking about that night, trying to figure out how I could have been so stupid. But the truth is, it felt good to have someone tell me I deserve better. It fed some part of me that wanted to be a victim instead of taking responsibility for my own happiness. I kept eating, saying nothing. Your email yesterday, everyone's been calling. My mom, my aunts, your parents, people from work. And you know what? Not one person defended what I said. Not one. Shocking. My mom was the worst. She said she was ashamed of me, that she didn't raise me to disrespect my husband like that. She said if I was unhappy, I should have talked to you, not a bunch of miserable women at Starbucks. She finally looked up at me. I wrote resignation letters last night from my job, from the volunteer committee at church, from the book club. I can't face any of these people knowing what they think of me. That seems dramatic. Is it? My boss made it clear that my behavior reflects on the company. The church committee doesn't want someone who publicly humiliates her husband. And the book club? She laughed bitterly. Half of them are divorced because they listened to the same kind of toxic advice I did. She stood up and walked to the window. I also wrote another letter to those women from the coffee shop. I told them exactly what I think of their advice and what it cost me. Did you send it? Yes. Along with screenshots of your email and their own social media posts. I wanted them to see what their poison actually does to marriages. I finished my breakfast and leaned back in my chair. What else? I called my ex. That got my attention. You what? I called him, told him I'd heard he was still borrowing money from women and cheating on his girlfriend, asked him if he ever planned to grow up, and he hung up on me, but his girlfriend called me back an hour later. Apparently, she'd been suspicious for weeks. She wanted to thank me for confirming what she already knew. She turned back to face me. You want to know the funny thing? Talking to him for 5 minutes reminded me why I broke up with him in the first place. He's selfish, immature, and completely unreliable. I can't believe I ever compared you to him. Yet, you did. Yes, I did. Because I let bitter women convince me that the grass was greener somewhere else. I forgot that I already had exactly what they were all complaining they couldn't find, a man who keeps his promises. She walked over to her suitcases. So, I'm leaving. Not because I'm running away, but because you asked me to figure out how to fix what I broke, and I can't do that while I'm here begging for forgiveness. How is leaving going to fix anything? It's not. But it's the only way I can show you that I understand the difference between wanting to save my marriage and needing to deserve it. She picked up her bags. My mom thinks I'm insane for leaving. She says I should be fighting for you, not walking away. But fighting for you would just be another way of trying to control this situation. I've done enough controlling. She paused at the door. I love you. I've loved you since college, but love isn't enough anymore, is it? I have to earn back the right to be your wife. And how do you plan to do that? I don't know. Maybe I can't. Maybe I destroyed something that can't be rebuilt. But I know I can't do it by staying here and making you watch me try to manipulate my way back into your good graces. She opened the door, then looked back one more time. I recorded a video last night. It's on my Facebook page, Instagram, everywhere. I told the truth about what I said to you and why it was wrong. I apologize publicly to you, and to both our families for embarrassing them. I didn't ask you to do that. No, you didn't. That's the point. You shouldn't have to ask your wife to defend your marriage. She should just do it. She stepped outside, then turned back. I'll be at my mom's if you decide you want to talk, but I won't be calling you, or texting you, or trying to wear you down. If you want me back, you'll have to choose it, because a marriage where one person has to convince the other to stay isn't a marriage worth having. I watched her load her bags into her car and drive away. Then I poured another cup of coffee and sat on the front porch. My phone buzzed with notifications. Her public apology video had been shared dozens of times already. In it, she looked directly into the camera and said, I told my husband he was worse than my ex-boyfriend. I was wrong. He's a good man who deserved better than a wife who would listen to toxic advice from unhappy women. I'm sorry to him, to our families, and to anyone who has to watch their loved ones pay the price for my selfishness. The comments were brutal, but she'd left them all up. Sunday evening, my sister called. She left. Yes. Are you okay? I'm fine. What are you going to do? I looked around the quiet house. Our house, the place we'd built a life together before she decided to tear it down. I'm going to take some time and figure out if the woman who left today is the same one who came home last Tuesday night. And if she's not, then maybe there's still a marriage worth saving. And if she is, then I'll know I was right to show her exactly how much worse I could be. My sister was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, that video took guts. Maybe. Or maybe it was just another way to try to fix things. Does it matter which one it was? I thought about that. About the woman who'd stood in my kitchen comparing me to a criminal, and the woman who'd walked out the door taking responsibility for her choices. Yeah, I said finally. It matters because the difference between those two women would determine whether I spent the rest of my life with a wife who respected me or alone with the knowledge that I'd been right all along. Either way, I was done being the worst option. She wanted to see how bad I could be, and I'd shown her. Now it was her turn to show me how good she could be. The ball was in her court, And for the first time in 2 weeks, I was okay with waiting to see what she'd do with it.